Welcome back to Quarantine Chops. That is not a reference to the questionable home haircuts that we're all getting at the moment, but rather things that I think are worth practicing now that we're all supposed to stay indoors and that we have no gigs to prepare for. It's time to focus on fundamentals, I think. Last time we talked about time and maybe a different perspective of looking at using a metronome to what many people are used to. Today I want to talk about melody. Now, lots of my students and lots of other bass players on forums on the internet, I hear asking the question, how can I be more melodic? I want to be more melodic in my playing. How do I go about that? Now, some of those people really mean I want to be able to shred high up on the instrument. They think that that is what melodic bass playing isn't. To me, that's not really the thing. Being able to present a melody in a musical way on the bass is a challenging thing. Our instrument does not lend itself to doing that in the same way that a saxophone or a cello or hell, even a guitar does. But it's worth pursuing. I think the way to be more melodic in your playing is to start learning great melodies, and these melodies are preferably played on an instrument that is not the bass guitar. I've picked one of my favourite melodies, which is a little bit naff. It's a pretty corny tune, but it had a big impact on me and my musical development, and I think it's pretty challenging for the left hand. That tune is Take 5, obviously recorded by Dave Brubeck, but written by one of my favourite sax players, Paul Desmond. Fantastic melodic sax player, worth checking out. I was given the assignment to transcribe his solo on Take 5 in a private lesson that I took shortly after graduating from music college, and that was the first non-bass thing that I'd ever transcribed, and it really, really opened up my playing and sort of opened the floodgates for a whole lot of things in my pursuit of trying to make my bass playing sound a little bit less like a bass and a little bit more like a saxophone. Anyway, I'm going to play the melody along with the drum loop, and then I'm going to talk about the various aspects of this which make it challenging and make it worthwhile, I think. 1, 2, 3. B section. So from the very first phrase of the melody, we're already getting a balance of different phrasings, different articulations within the same musical phrase. So here we go. So in there, some notes were short, some notes were long, some things were picked, others were slurred. And even that thing of trying to get a balance between all four fingers on your fretting hand, I think, is a difficult thing that is worth pursuing and is often overlooked. After that phrase, we've got some more legato work, and I choose to play this phrase all on one string because what I'm trying to do is match every single nuance of that saxophone line as closely as possible. Now, you might say that's a bit of a fool's errand on a fretted string instrument, but I'm fairly bloody minded and I'm going to try my best to get there. So, trying to get that smooth and connected without too many breaks, trying to make those shifts as musical as possible, again, is challenging. Whole phrase. That legato is pretty ropey. So that's the A section. The B section throws up a whole set of different challenges because we've now got quite a lot of chromaticism. And again, there's a balance between slurred and plucked notes. And as with any chromatic thing on the bass, you have to make up your mind about how and where you're going to play it. And there's always more than one way of attacking these things. So of time focusing on every single note, every single pair of notes even, and working out if you're going to pluck them, if you're going to slur them, where they sit on the fingerboard is a really important thing as well, because you'll get a different sound. But that is the set of fingerings that I've arrived at. It's worth, again, learning it by ear. You'll notice there's no real book in sight. I've done this all by ear. I haven't taken it off the page, and that's a deliberate choice, because it's all too easy when we're learning tunes just to head straight for a real book, because it cuts down on the effort and the time expended. But I find if I do that, it sort of shuts my ears off, and I don't play the melody, present the melody as musically as I could, and even the best notation can't convey all the little subtle nuances that make, Paul Desmond or Bill Evans or Pat Metheny, whoever, who make their phrasing so musical and so unique. So I think it's definitely worth doing this by ear rather than by eye, and that comes from someone who spends his life writing down music and making charts for things. So when I learn things by ear, it goes in a lot deeper, and it comes out in my playing more readily than if I've taken things in by eye. So the challenge is to find a melody that means something to you. It doesn't have to be take 5. That might be a repulsive thought, because it is not everyone's cup of tea. Anyway, find a melody that means something to you. It can be anything at all. The only criteria are it has to be something you love, not played on a bass, and that you don't take it off the page. You use your ears. Every single melody that I've bothered to learn by ear has had an impact on my technique, my musicianship, and the way I approach playing phrases melodically on the bass. Things like Tenor Madness, Sonny Rollins' blues tune. Even it's quite a simple phrase. And that probably was not even the way that I ended up playing it. Trying to make it swing is a difficult thing, and that's largely about where you play it on the instrument. Just remember that horrible ending phrase. Sort of minor major 7 thing. It's a real finger twister on a fretted string instrument tuned in fourths. So even a relatively simple tune in the larger picture of jazz standards, it's not Donna Lee, it's not Got a Match, it's a pretty simple tune, and even that throws up some really interesting technical and musical problems for your fretting hand. So take up the challenge, find a melody that means something to you, learn it by ear, try and capture all the little nuances that make it special on that other instrument, whatever it might be. Might be a saxophone, might be a piano, might be a guitar. Try and translate those things to your bass, and it will work wonders for your phrasing and your musicianship and your playing in general. If you've made it this far and you've enjoyed what you've seen, then feel free to become a triple threat by smashing that like button, leaving me a comment, and hitting subscribe so you can stay up to date with all the latest videos from this channel. So let's talk about the solo. Oh, well, there we go. Some of it. First 8 bars, maybe. Anyway.